What is up, guys? It's Jay. Welcome back to Jay's POV, where every POV matters. Be sure to let me know what yours down in the comments. And I wanted to do another review. I just want to switch it up, not always having reactions. If I don't have time to keep reacting to certain things, at least be able to talk about, which I'm planning to do with Hawkeye whenever the full season's over. With Hawkeye, I'm gonna do my little review on Hawkeye. But today we have it in Netflix's True Story. It's a new Netflix show. Netflix original starring Kevin Hart, Wesley Snipes. Synopsis of it: basically, you have Kevin Hart's character who is basically playing himself. Kevin Hart's playing himself with a different name. It's Kevin Hart though, who goes back home to Philly, basically for a week for his little stint that he has in Philly for his little tour. And when he goes there, he reunites with his brother, who's not been good news in his life. And one night, hanging out with his brother, now spirals his life into a series of unfortunate events that could lead to more than him losing just his career and his reputation. He could lose everything. So as you can tell, the show is more of a suspense thriller. It has some twists and turns to it. I will say the main twist that comes like at the end of episode 6. It's something that anybody that has watched any type of suspense, any type of thriller, any type of mystery will probably see it within the first episode. You know what I mean? It's not that it's not rewarding. It is, but you know that it's coming. Like, you know exactly what the twist is, and you're just waiting for it to come to light, basically, right? So, other than that, though, even with that being said, and me still knowing what twist is going to happen in the future, the show still does a good job of keeping you distressed. I will say that for sure. Watching this show, I was stressed. I didn't feel calm at any moment. I didn't feel like our protagonist, his friends or anything, I didn't feel like they were safe at all. It never felt like they were out of the mud. Even with every solution they had, there was always something more that felt like they were just going to keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Because of that, it was more of a on the edge of your seat type of what the hell is going to happen next. And that's something that I always have to give shows good credit for. That's something that is very one of my favorite shows of all time, Breaking Bad. That's something that show does really, really well. Is it gives our protagonist a situation. They take this temporary situation and make a long-term solution out of it. Now, that solution is probably not the best thing, but they just cover it up in the moment. You know what I mean? Now, later on, when that solution starts, the thread starts to unravel, and they have a bigger pile of mess. They slap another long-term solution on top of that and try to cover it up, and then more starts to unravel. And by you know what, you're a mountain of shit that you now have to keep dealing with. And that's one of the things that make Breaking Bad so great. Is you have layers of, it starts off with one problem, you solve that problem, but because you solving that problem, that's another burden on yourself, and now you have to keep that one. And as you keep going, you end up forgetting what the first secret even was. You know what I mean? Because you stack on everything, and now you're in a completely different spot than you were at the very beginning. And that's what I think this show does well. Is it starts off with an initial issue, and from that initial issue comes a shit ton of more problems that, if our protagonists probably have went a different route from the jump, they would not have been in this predicament later. So I think the show does really well. Despite probably seeing where the show's going, you still are on the edge of your seat, and still like, damn, you're still nervous for the characters. You're still nervous of the choices they make and how that will affect them the rest of the series. Let's start off with a big plus. Despite how you feel about Kevin Hart, the choices he's made, things he said, whether he's funny, his comedy, whatever you feel about him at the moment, enough can't be said about his performance in this show, though. He really turned it into another gear. I think that he took this opportunity and he really milked it in a good way. He has not been blessed with acting jobs to show off his acting range like this show. He's always been put in like a Will Ferrell type of comedy, whether it was Get Hard, Ride Along 1, Ride Along 2, Central Intelligence, and it's the same type of movie of just being the comic relief for the movie. Now, in this show, there's no comic relief with him. Even if he's playing a comedian, there's no jokes with him. It was a very sincere, it felt like he wasn't even acting. And I think that's the best compliment you could give someone, is when you're watching someone and it feels like they're just being natural, as if the camera wasn't there, this is how they'll be acting. I think that's the best compliment you could give an actor, because Kevin Hart just feels very himself. And maybe it makes it easier because he's basically playing himself with a different name, but he was great. His acting was great. Everybody's acting was great, but I think the one standout is Kevin Hart, having a leading role in a drama show. That's not something that a comedian will do, you know what I mean? And that's different, like Eddie Murphy and stuff. Like they've had actors and stuff that from comedy that kind of transition over, but it's always like a slap and dash type of comedy, But I don't think there could be enough said about how well Kevin Hart really did, and how he basically turned himself into an actor, like a good actor, a great actor from a comedian. You know what I mean? This isn't, like I said, Ride Along Kevin Hart. This is Kevin Hart's lead actor in a drama series type of performance. So I think he needs to get his flowers for this already off the bat. Now, talking about some not weak points of it, but because this is a limited series, which means it's only one season, it's not like you're gonna get a whole 4-season breakout to tell a whole story. It's one season to tell a whole story, and each episode is very short in length, except the first one. The first one's about a normal Netflix length. Every other one is about 30 something minutes. Episode 6 is like 27 minutes, right? So on the plus side, you have a show that is just easy to consume, right? You put it up, you have an interesting story, it's not long episodes. Somebody that has some time in between could binge the whole series within maybe like 3 hours at a time, right? I'm just throwing, my math isn't good. But they could binge it within less than 4 hours, right? So it's easy to consume, it's interesting, it keeps you on the edge. You have all that into one for a good show for you just to enjoy. Now, on the other hand, because of that, it feels like the show paints a lot of things as if you could set that up to explode at the end or for another season. Like I said, we're not getting to spoilers, but for example, he has a manager named Todd, and they set up a lot of stuff about, I guess, him having like an eating problem, and in the past, Kevin Hart's character used to make him feel worried and scared, and you would think that might come up again later, like he's hit his max and he was in a good spot, and now how Kevin Hart's acting, and you would think that would come up later, that he's gonna like hit the wall and basically stand up for himself in a way. Never happens. That's something that if you have a season 2 type of stuff, it's okay if it doesn't happen, because that's just seeds you sow in the first season. As well as he has a girl in the show that writes some of his jokes for him. That's a writer for him. And the whole stint is she gets her jokes cut a lot, and she's starting to get very frustrated. She feels like she doesn't need to be there, and she thinks about taking an opportunity to write for someone else. Now, that's a nice seed to sow in, that he's gonna have a rift in his people. Her writing for someone else never comes back up. He offers her to open for him at Madison Square Garden. Never comes back up. She goes and does a stand-up event just for fun, and she kills it. And apparently she's getting a lot of buzz and stuff, and that never comes back up. You can see that Kevin Hart was maybe a little jealous, right? His character was a little jealous that his companion, basically, like his one of his people from his team, is doing well when he might, in his situation at that time, he wasn't doing well. And they had offered her to do another event, and he said he'll do it. but that whole riff never comes back up. There's a lot of storylines sewed into it that it would be great to explore if there was going to be a season 2, but we know there's not because they've said it's a limited series. So because of that, watching it, there's just wasted plot lines. Basically, there's things that are brought up that there's no reason to be there. Like I said, with his manager and with his comedian friend that writes all the jokes for him. That stuff never comes back to light. It feels like the last maybe 3 episodes, I don't even see her at all. I don't even think she's there. So, there's the main story, there's side stories, and they build it up like there's going to be a explosion at the top where all the storylines meet. Kevin Hart's character is going to have to deal with all of them. He really has to deal with a couple, maybe 2. Those other ones with his team falling apart, it just at the end, it seems like it's a bow tight, nice, all good, like I said. So because it's a limited series, I feel like they did a good job as a show, showing many issues as if there was going to be a season 2 that you could explore it. But because we know there's no season 2, and because they wrapped it up how they did, it just feels like it's things that never got resolved. It feels like unfinished story, and it feels like they just forgot about it while writing the rest of the show. But overall, I will say this. Like I said, for me, who is a busy man, as you know, don't always get a chance to record, don't always get a chance to upload, True Story gave me everything I needed from it, For somebody, like I said, that's a fan of Breaking Bad and this type of storytelling where your actions have consequences. Those consequences will cause you to make actions that have more consequences. And that type of storytelling for me has always been intriguing because you're watching it and you get mad when characters make decisions because that decision is going to F over many other people. And when that comes back to light, now you have to bury it with more lies and stuff and more secrets and do more dirty stuff to keep yourself afloat. And I always loved storytelling like that. So for that, I like that the show is short. Everything's easy to consume. You could watch it and binge it in less than half a day. You could binge the whole show. Get everything you need from it. Keep you on the edge of your seat. Keep you entertained the whole time. The acting is great. Wesley Snipes, great in it too. I didn't even have to talk about him, but he just played his brother. I don't even want to say anything about that. I just want you guys to watch it. So I would recommend, for what it's worth, I will give the show an 8 out of 10, honestly, for entertainment. It is a well-told story, no matter the things that they've left unsettled at the end. It was going in the right path, and for the main concise story within these 7 episodes, they've wrapped it up, they explained stuff, and there's some decisions where you're like, I would not have done that, but there's some that you're like, I probably would have done that. But you know what I mean? That's the part of the storytelling part where everything is going to come back around. So I would give it an 8 out of 10. I would say if you like stories like that where you're not happy that you're stressed watching the show, if you like being stressed watching a show, doing this, just going from episode to episode, because every episode finishes in a way that you're like, okay, I need to see the next one. All right, fine, I'll watch the next one. And because they're all 30 minutes long, you're like, all right, I could do another 30 minutes. It's a smart way of letting people just binge through the show. It's great on hooking you each episode to keep going. I would recommend anyone that hasn't seen it yet. It's worth the watch. It won't take too much of your time. It's very intriguing. Keep you on the edge of your seat the whole time. So let me know if you've seen it already. Let me know what you thought down below. Whether you thought it was a great show, if you had any nitpicks, if you thought it was better than an 8 out of 10. Like I said, I just think it was great for what it was. If there was multiple seasons of this show, I think it would end up being a great drama series. But knowing it's a limited series, I feel like there was so much we could have explored more, unfortunately. But as always, I'm Jay, and this is just my point of view.